Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Whitmer Art. My name is Kirk, and today I want to share with you how I created this image of a running robot. It all started with a posable figure, and then I created the robot as a vector graphic image, and then finally used a digital painting program called Procreate to give him a background. And now, let's get started. The first thing we did was set up our posable figure, who works really cheap by the way, and take a picture. The next step is to open up a vector graphics program. Happens to be a piece of software called Inkscape. Now we'll reach into our iPad and bring across that picture that we took into this vector program. And of course it's too big, so we're going to resize it so that it fits inside that little frame. And we're taking a guess. We're going to slide it around and drag it so that it expands in proper proportion and fills that frame. And zoom in so you can see what we're doing. Now, following that, we're going to reach over here on the left side and grab a tool called the Bezier Pen right there. And that will allow us to click on top of this image on a separate layer and create the lines that will draw a particular piece. I'm going to start in this corner here where I know it's going to be hidden by the torso that we'll create later. And as you click around on the drawing and click and drag your mouse without letting up on that button to produce a curved line, and you just work your way slowly around, carefully drawing each piece. Hit the enter key and you can get a square corner and start again, and then click and drag, and now we're going to get a curve right about there and another one here. Sometimes the line will bend naturally, other times you've got to give it a little help. We're going to gradually work our way around to where we started, and now we've drawn the shape that will form that piece of our robot. So we have a basic outline, we've selected that, and now we're going to add color by putting a mesh gradient on there. Now imagine, if you will, a fishnet and how flexible it is. And there are points across the top and bottom of that diagram there that allow us to select the square ones and insert a color into those, and the other shapes, the circles, we can use to manipulate the edges until we've got a mesh that goes all the way around our drawing, and we maneuver it bit by bit, and you can see the colors sliding in as we go. Now I've already made a decision here that we're going to light this robot from the left side and behind the robot, so I'm choosing colors accordingly. We didn't want the pink that we started with, of course. I was thinking more of a copper or bronze color, so we're going to change those up here in a second and put more brown tones in there, and just keep changing and adding and maneuvering and shaping, and eventually we'll get what we want. It's a little tedious, but we're getting there. Maneuvering, bending. Bring these in a little closer so our colors go right to the edges of the area that we're trying to color. And throw in some browns. Maneuver that. We're going to put the highlight a little closer to the edge here. And there we've got our first piece finished. Now, that's one of something in the neighborhood of 90 to 100 different pieces to compose this central figure of our robot. And I've already created them. And now I'm going to turn them on one at a time so that you can see them being developed and get an idea of just how many pieces it takes to make a robot. And we've got certain groups. For example, the robot's right arm is one group, and I've turned on those individual pieces so that you can see them develop. Some of the pieces are behind others. For example, the neck that was just added is going to wind up behind the head, and the head I drew freeform without following the photograph because I wanted a little bit different look than what the photograph would have provided had I traced it exactly. And now we're adding in whole groups at a time, and well, these are still pieces on his left leg, some highlights on the torso. Notice we've got a neck color where the neck fits into the body. Turn on a leg and a foot, and there we have our robot. Now I'll save the image as a PNG file so that it can have a transparent background. We'll import it into the iPad and get started on our landscape. Here's my buddy Pal.
Come on, pal. Let's go to work. Good boy.
Going into the digital painting program now called Procreate, I'll first create a few layers so I can put different things on different layers and be able to control each element independently of the others. We'll start by putting a yellow sky on this alien planet, and here's an indicator there for the light source so I can make sure that the lighting in the landscape is the same lighting that I created when I did the robot. You may have noticed that there's quite a bit of difference between the texture of the sky being as smooth and even as it is compared to the texture that you see in the distant rocks and the floor of the desert. And the reason for that is because the sky was created with a simulated airbrush tool and the rocks were done with a texturing tool. Let's put some light in that sky and bring in the star of our show. Put some dust kicked up from his footsteps, lay in a shadow to help him look more grounded in his landscape. And we'll go back and work on the rocks some more highlights from that alien looking sun, casting some more shadows from the distant rocks, working on the desert floor here, and adding more shadows and softening them up. Let's see if we can't make that light in the sky a little more interesting. Oh, wait, that's a bit much. We'll just knock it back a little bit and call it done. If you made it all the way through to this point, put the code phrase running robot in the comments down below. I'd especially like to hear from you if you were unfamiliar with vector graphics or digital painting, and you can tell me what you learned. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, be sure to take care of that before you leave. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Whitmer Art.